On this episode of Lapeef, Let's Talk.
We'll see how this plays out come Father's Day.
Mhm.
We'll see the number of women who salute themselves or salute their friends or salute their sister circle and say, happy Father's Day to you, girl.
Talk to him, Chicago.
Hey, man, look.
Dog, you hit that dog.
Real, but hey, serious.
Salute to Chicago on that point, bro.
No, we'll see this play out.
Sure.
But here's the thing. Here's the interesting thing. Those same women don't understand the men that you complain about, you're raising those same boys from those men that you complain about.
Do most Black women understand the value of a father? It's a nice transition. Do most Black women understand the value of a father? I'm gonna start with you, Courtney. Let's talk.
That's a good question. I can speak on personal experience and say no. I did not know the value of a father till late in life. So my situation is different from Anton and Kay. My dad, growing up in the 80s, Reaganomics and crack cocaine, a lot of kids lost their parents. I was one of them. My dad left when I was 2 due to addiction. And when he left, of course, growing up, him trying to get back and forth in my life, but was always gone. I had a resentment towards him because I felt abandoned. And no, I didn't. He tried to come back in my life, and I just felt like, no, I don't need you. You wasn't there for me when I was growing up. Why do I need you now? So I did not think that he was important at all. So I shunned him. I cussed him out on a few occasions when he tried to get back and forth in my life. Then, of course, with my story, I said, one of my healing things was I had to forgive him because I had daddy issues growing up. And so I thought men was going to abandon me because that was supposed to be my first love and he was never there. So once I forgave him and decided to get him back in my life about 6 years ago, that man turned into to be my best friend. And I finally realized, yes, I needed my father. I always was jealous of young girls that had their father because I always wanted to be a daddy's girl. And I felt like I missed out. And again, I was upset with him. So I forgave him and I asked him to forgive me. Dad, I'm sorry. I know that you was trying to get back. You got sober and I refused to let you. So please forgive me and let's try to build. And like I said, in my 30s, I'm just now really having an amazing relationship with my father. He's become my best friend. He got a gap. That's why I keep my gap. I'm not my dentist like, close that up. I'm like, nah, like I look like my father. And I'm so proud of him and where he's came from. So did I grew up, no, not thinking that I needed him. Hence probably why I grew up thinking I didn't need a man because I said I didn't need my father. But now I know that I need him. And, I'm proud to be a daddy's girl.
Chicago Rilla, do most Black women understand the value of a father?
Hey, salute to you, Courtney, for sharing that. So not all, but most don't. Not all. Shout out to Jesse.
Somebody been listening. Yeah.
We talked about this already, man.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I feel
that. Hey, listen, man. That's. Hey, man. I glean from everywhere. No, they don't, and I'm gonna tell you why. We'll see how this plays out come Father's Day. We'll see the number of women who salute themselves or salute their friends or salute their sister circle and say, happy Father's Day to you, girl.
Talk to him, Chicago.
Hey, man, look.
Dog, you hit that dog.
Real, but hey, serious.
Salute to Chicago on that point, bro.
No, we'll see this play out.
Sure.
But here's the thing. Here's the interesting thing. Those same women don't understand the men that you complain about, you're raising those same boys from those men that you complain about. Meanwhile, those women, more often than not, grew up without that father, right? Grew up without that father. So they're chasing to fill that void. So do most Black women understand the value of a father? No. And because if they did, I'm gonna tell you another thing. We wouldn't have, I don't think we'd have our communities. And again, I'm not absolving brothers of their duty. I know this is for us to get at the men and have conversations around men and all that, but our communities wouldn't look the way that it does, and you wouldn't have so many fathers outside of their children's lives. If women understood the value of a father, you know, it's funny to me because you'll have women saying, well, you'll have them saying, well, if you love your children, you'll fight. Well, why ain't you fighting?
Yo, Rilla said I didn't talk a lot last show, so I'm about to pull up from the I'm gonna pull up from the half court. I'm gonna pull up from the half court on that third subject. Okay.
The last show didn't require me, man. Nah, real spill, man. And I really wish the sisters would hear this. Now I hope they heard what JR said. You know, do most, like he didn't say do all, do some, do most Black women understand the value of a father? And if you understood that, you'd have that father in that child's life. And I'm gonna tell you one more thing, and I'll be quiet, I promise. Even if you think that daddy ain't worth a ton of brick, let that child spend time with his father and let him or her decide. Let them see that for themselves. You're not protecting that child from their dad unless it's some type of abuse. You're not protecting that child from their dad. What you're doing is you're doing retribution because you not with them.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna chill out.
Go ahead, Rilla.
That's good, Rilla. That's good info.
Good stuff.
Please, women, allow these fathers to father. Don't hold it against them. Anton, do most Black women understand the value of a father?
I think that a lot of women understand the value of having a father in their life. I don't think that they realize how valuable it is. So, like, for example, why is Father's Day not celebrated in the same light as Mother's Day? Mother's Day is like a big deal. It's almost like Christmas. Father's Day is like an afterthought. The whole idea of a dude getting a tie is a standard, like, you know, it's a standard protocol or a standard thing. Also take into consideration, like, people often at times, you know, say how important it is for a man to have a father in his life, but they always overlook the idea of how important it is for a woman to have her father in her life, and what that impact is. You never hear that as a part of the conversation as much as you hear the importance of a man having a father in his life. And so if you just take those two things by themselves at face value, you can see how society at large values men, how women at large value fathers versus how they value and compare in comparison to mothers. I don't think that people look at men in general, let alone fathers, as valuable as they should. And to a larger extent, it also is a part of multiple decades long agenda to continue to highlight the importance of not having a father in the household, whether it be from a societal perspective, the government perspective. You know, there has been a dedicated effort, whether it be from the feminist movement, whether it be from these politicians, to highlight the importance of women being championed and men being put down, which ultimately led to the decline in households, or highlighting the importance and the stability that comes along with kids being successful or women being successful as a result of being raised by their fathers. So absolutely not. Fathers are not as valued as they should be, especially by women.
Yeah. I want to say something too, if I can, and then Kay, you can have the floor. When we talk about women and femininity, that's where it starts. When a young girl is a daddy's girl, that's the essence of what femininity is. Like, your dad treats you like sweet, and you just feel dainty around him. And my father, when I'm around him, even in my 30s, I feel dainty. I feel sweet. My dad is like, he became my superhero. And I love him to death. Like, he's my best friend. Every single day, he'll call and text me, country, hey, daughter, just want to make sure you have a good day, baby. I'm like, thank you, daddy. So it just feels good. Every child, especially little girls, need their fathers, because that's how you're taught. And that's how I definitely think femininity is taught. And when you talk about strong women, so independent, I bet that their father isn't in their life or in the household.
Yeah.
Courtney, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Courtney, do you think the man that you marry will, in a sense, be a reflection of your father?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even guys that I've dated, my past relationship, my dad, I asked him for approval. My dad, they was ace boom coon. So yeah, yeah. And he reminded me of my father. My father is this suave, cool, down south, just always got Stacey Adams on for no reason. It's just so dope. Yeah, absolutely. He's charismatic. He just makes me smile. And yeah, absolutely. I would love to marry. I mean, besides what we went through years ago, but the man that he is now, absolutely. I would definitely want my husband to remind me of my dad.
Hey, Kay, before I come to you,
Mhm.
I'll read this question again. I just want to speak on it a little bit. Do most Black women understand the value of a father? I'm not going to say most. Some do, but I only want to speak to the women right now that don't. This show is about the men. There are a lot of deadbeat dads out there, I'm going to be honest. There are a lot of guys that just don't want to be involved with their child. And I understand that you guys should be involved. But let's try to start from the beginning. There's a lot of women that also have a choice as far as who they lay down with. So a lot of women are hopping into relationships, so to speak, and they're not carefully choosing the right mate. And so what's happening, even though it's the guy's fault too, it's both our faults. It's the father, well, the future father, and it's the mother's fault for allowing this to happen. Because what's happening is that the women are laying down with the men. You got to understand, men are hunters. You know, there are a lot of men out here. I know like Anton is the exception and Kate might be the exception, but there are a lot of men out here that just laying it down. They just shooting up the club. And it happens every day. So somebody has to be the bigger person. So I want to speak on the women right now. You got to be careful. Like, you can't lay down with this man and then call him a deadbeat dad and he ain't nothing and this, that, and the third. You should have thought about that before you laid down with him, because you're a part of the problem just as much as he is. He's not being in the child's life, and you chose to lay down with the wrong person. So that's what comes therapy. There are a lot of people that are out here walking around like zombies, and they toxic. They're just fucking. Excuse my language. I ain't mean to say that.
All right.
It is what it is.
Come on, Uncle Nearest.
They just
Uncle Near.
they just laying down. So I think that both sides need to be careful. But women have to understand that men are hunters. You know, they're gonna hunt that meat. But it's gonna be up to you ultimately whether you open your legs or not. And that's just real talk.
Hey, and JR, real quick, just to piggyback, I want to just make a real quick note, because I was studying something with because I think it's a misnomer, and I was subject to this too, that there are a lot of deadbeat dads out there. There are a number of men.
Just when I thought that you had it together, decided to go ahead and go ahead.
I hadn't even finished yet.
I'm sorry, my bad. Go ahead,
please. There are a number of men impregnating multiple women. So the number of guys that are actually on their square, doing what they supposed to do, doing right by their kids, paying the child support, some of them fighting and trying to get in their kids' life. What we really seeing, honestly, and this is why it keeps going, this is why this conversation keeps going back to who controls access to sex. This is why it keeps going back to that, right? Because it's a small percentage. I don't have the exact number in my head right now, but there's a smaller percentage of guys that are actually dead beats. And what you find is these guys, like, who's the girl? There was just a girl in the news who was bragging about being the 5th baby mama of somebody. You know what I'm saying?
Rapper.
Right. So that's one dude impregnate multiple. You understand what I'm saying? So I just wanted to make that correct. I didn't want to step on what you were saying, brother, but I think that's something that we got to examine, that it's not as many deadbeats out here as most people keep beating that drum and pounding that narrative and saying it's a bunch of deadbeats. Now, it's a gang of brothers out here that's on their square doing what they're supposed to do when it comes to their seeds. He just didn't want to deal with you. So that don't make him a deadbeat. That just makes him not wanting to be with you.
Yeah. And the men, you got to focus on your purpose, man. We can't be out here just laying down with anything, man. Like I do agree. And people learn in different times. You know, what Anton said is right. We had to be careful. And I wish a lot of people were careful in the beginning, but also understand that there are a lot of men that they just don't care. You know, you spread them legs, they're gonna hop in there. They're gonna get that meat. I apologize, Kay. I just had to get that out. But do most Black women understand the value of a father?
I do not think that most fully understand, because there's so many single parent homes. So a lot of people look at their mother as just the one. And I think that goes for men and women. There's songs, there's, holidays that are so important. Like, I feel like that happens because, and I was about to ask Anton about this when he was talking, but I forgot exactly what he said. But I remember thinking, like, which one do you think came first, right? So I feel like the reason mothers are viewed as so important is because so many people are raised just by their mothers. Like, personally, I feel that mothers and fathers are extremely important for boys and girls. Like, it's necessary. Not saying that you cannot be perfectly fine without one or the other parents, because, life happens. But optimally, you would be with your two parents in one household, to get that full experience, I guess, and two happy, in love people raising you together. I think that women who have had an involved father really understand the value. And I think, like what Courtney was saying earlier, some women don't realize that until later. Like, if you're raised by your mom, your aunts, your grandma, whoever else, you're like, oh, I'm fine. And then as you start to get older, these things manifest in different ways depending on the person. So I think that there are so many single parent households that plenty of Black women do not understand the value, because, the first thing, and I used to talk about this like a long, long time ago on my personal page. And, most people would say, it doesn't matter, I turned out just fine. Like, I only grew up with my mom. And this goes for men and women saying those types of things. And like I said, and my example back then was like, you can live with one kidney, but like, you would be better off with two kidneys because that's how it's supposed to be. So I feel like while you can be a perfectly fine human who can have a great life with a single parent, I think it's just a huge difference when you have a relationship with both of your parents. And I think that far too many of our families in our communities are run by a single mother. And like what JR was saying earlier, yeah, like, you can't just, that goes for men and women, kind of what he was saying earlier about the men. Like, you have to be discerning about who you're procreating with. I think that's really important, but that education just isn't there. And a lot of people just don't look at things in that way. I think a lot of people are really careless. And some people actually think it's like a sign of manhood. And if we're talking about like alpha males, maybe it is, because they are the ones with the most sexual access. So I don't know. It's a biological thing, but I think as a community, we just need to be more sexually responsible, be more careful, make sure that we are in stable, loving relationships before having children. My grandma told me, like, do not ever, And it's no shade to anybody. I know everybody always thinks I'm shading somebody, but I'm not. But she told me a long time ago, like, do not have children with more than one man. Like, and that like stuck to me.
Really?
He said that a long time ago. And I'm just like, okay. And also then on top of that, just, I don't know. Marriage is forever. Children are forever. I think it's not something that needs to be taken lightly. I think a lot needs to go into it. Yeah, so.
The one caveat, the one thing that I do have a problem with is that when we have these conversations, a lot of times nobody promotes marriage. Everybody just says in a relationship. Everybody just says, yo, make sure we choose who we having sex with. Make sure we figure out who it is that we gon'. The problem with not having a conversation in its entirety is that it promotes a mentality that people operate out of selfishness. Like, for example, one of the things that we highlighted earlier in the show is that a lot of times men have kids because they want to have seeds or they want to have a legacy or all of that other type of stuff. The kid is an afterthought. The foundation of why people are doing what they're doing comes from a selfish reason. And so that translates into when you're raising a kid. Often at times it's difficult for people to put the kid or their circumstance or their relationship or their marriage at the forefront. When you understand that it's other people depending on you, in most instances, you place yourself last. You take into consideration everything that everybody else is doing, or you put them at the forefront of why you're doing what you're doing. It propels you to be greater than you normally would if you was just to take yourself into consideration. Even when you talk about addiction, even when you talk about problems, often at times what they tell you is to think about something that's bigger than yourself. Make yourself accountable to somebody that's like, don't just think about you, because if you do it for you, it might not matter. But if you do it for something that's greater than yourself, then it'll probably propel you to be a better version of yourself. And so the thing that I'm always having an issue with is, why is it just enough to have a relationship, but not to commit? Because if you don't even commit in the relationship, why would you commit long term to the growth and the health of the child when you're trying to be a part-time parent versus being a full-time relationship? That, for me, that makes no sense whatsoever.